Welcome to Inside the Philippines. I'm your host, and today's story comes from a man who spent his whole life reading people. Clyde, 63, from Portland, Oregon, worked 40 years in restaurant kitchens where spotting a liar or a thief is part of the job. He thought that skill would protect him when he retired to Cebu City. He thought his progressive values, his open-mindedness, his genuine desire to help people would somehow make him immune to the stories he'd heard about foreign men getting scammed. He was wrong. What happened when he met a bright young student who seemed different from all the rest changed everything he thought he knew about trust, about culture, and about his own loneliness. This one's going to make you think twice about helping someone in need. Here's his story, in his own words. My name is Clyde, and I need to tell you about the biggest blind spot of my life. Not the most expensive mistake, mind you, but the one that hurt the most because it showed me something about myself I didn't want to see. I spent 40 years behind the line in Portland's farm-to-table scene. Not the celebrity chef nonsense, just good restaurants where we knew our farmers by name and could tell you which field your pork chop came from. Le Pigeon for a few years, Paley's Place, some other spots you'd know if you're from Portland. I was the guy who broke down whole animals, managed the line, trained the young cooks who thought they were going to be the next Anthony Bourdain. It was good work, honest work. The kind where you could take pride in precision, in doing things right. My wife Sarah taught high school English. We lived in a Selwood Craftsman we bought in the 90s, before the neighborhood got expensive. We saved. We planned. We talked about retiring to the Oregon coast someday, maybe Cannon Beach, or somewhere quiet where we could walk on the beach, and I could finally read all the books Sarah kept recommending. We were content. That's the word for it. Content. Then, one Tuesday morning in April, 2 years ago, Sarah made a small sound during coffee. Just a little noise, almost like surprise. She touched her temple. Her eyes went wide. And then she collapsed out of her chair onto our kitchen floor. Brain aneurysm. That's what the paramedics said. She was gone before they got her into the ambulance. No warning. No goodbye. Just that small sound, and she was gone. We were 61. We'd been married 38 years. The grief counselor I saw for 3 months told me everyone processes loss differently. Some people throw themselves into work. Some people fall apart. I did something in between. I kept working for a few months, but the kitchen felt hollow. The banter with the line cooks felt forced. Coming home to that empty Craftsman every night was like walking into a museum of our life together. Every room had her in it, her books, her coffee mug, the garden she'd planted. I couldn't do it. I sold the house, got $95,000 for it after the realtor took her cut. Combined with my culinary workers' pension, I had about $105,000 in savings and $2,400 a month coming in. Not rich, but comfortable. Enough to retire on if I was careful. For a while I just existed. Stayed with my buddy Mark, slept on his couch, watched a lot of TV. He suggested I travel. Get out of Portland. Go somewhere warm. I started watching YouTube videos late at night when I couldn't sleep. Retirement abroad channels. You know the type. Ecuador, Portugal, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines. The Philippines kept coming up. Warm weather, year-round English speakers everywhere because of the American colonial period. Cheap cost of living. Friendly people. There were these SRRV retirement visas, where you put down a deposit, live there legally, and the deposit's refundable if you ever leave. $50,000 deposit, but you get it back. That felt safe. Legitimate. I'm a Portland guy, you understand? Progressive values. Voted for Bernie twice. Believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt, treating everyone with respect regardless of where they're from. I'd always prided myself on being open-minded, the kind of guy who sees poverty as a structural problem, not a personal failing. That mindset is important for what comes later. I applied for the SRRV visa in October, bought a ticket to Manila, went through all the processing, the medical exams, the paperwork. The Philippine bureaucracy is something else, let me tell you, but I got through it. I chose Cebu City for my base. Not as overwhelming as Manila, still a real city with good infrastructure and close to nice islands if I wanted to explore. I arrived in December. The heat hit me the moment I stepped off the plane. Not Portland rain and 50 degrees. Tropical humidity. 85 degrees with moisture so thick you could see it in the air. Christmas decorations were everywhere. Filipinos love Christmas like nobody else. The whole city was lit up, carols playing from every store, giant lanterns called paroles hanging from streetlights. I found a one-bedroom condo near Ayala Center, the big mall district, 25,000 pesos a month. That's about $450. Back in Portland, a studio apartment cost $1,500 minimum. I could actually afford to live here. That was the seductive part. My pension that barely covered rent back home suddenly made me comfortable. The first few weeks were culture shock. The traffic is insane. The poverty right alongside the gleaming malls. Little kids selling sampaguita flowers at intersections. Old women begging outside 7-Eleven. Everyone calling me sir. Hello, sir. Good morning, sir. Where you from, sir? Every white guy is assumed to be rich. Every white guy is assumed to be looking for a girlfriend. I fell into routines pretty quick. That's what cooks do, we create systems. Morning coffee at Bo's Coffee, this local chain that's actually pretty decent. I'd sit there with my Kindle, read, watch Cebu wake up. Afternoons, I'd walk through Fuente Osmeña Circle, this park in the middle of the city. I'd cook for myself in my little condo kitchen. Simple stuff. The local markets had great produce and seafood, but I missed my routines, missed the chaos of a restaurant kitchen. The loneliness crept in around month 3. The expat groups I joined were mostly older guys with Filipina girlfriends half their age. The dynamic made me uncomfortable. I'm not a prude. I know people make their own choices. But there was something transactional about it that bothered me. That wasn't why I came here. I came here to heal, to start over, to find some peace in the warmth, instead of drowning in Portland rain and memories of Sarah. Around month 4, something good happened. A local culinary school reached out through my LinkedIn. Would I be interested in teaching occasional weekend workshops? Basic Western cooking techniques, knife skills, French fundamentals for their hospitality management students. The pay was nothing. 3,000 pesos per class, about $55. But it gave me purpose. I started teaching twice a month. The students were great. Young, enthusiastic, asked good questions. Mostly young women in hospitality programs, a few young men who were serious about cooking careers. It felt professional, respectful. I prided myself on being the instructor who treated them like real students, not like exotic foreigners to gawk at. I was Chef Clyde again, not just another lonely white guy in Cebu. I was building something. That's what I thought. I was creating a life here that had meaning, teaching, contributing, being useful. After 6 months of grief and emptiness, I finally felt like I had a reason to get up in the morning. I had no idea what was coming. The rainy season hit Cebu in June, my 7th month there. Not Portland drizzle. Tropical downpours that came in the afternoon like clockwork turned the streets into rivers, then stopped as suddenly as they started. The humidity afterward was brutal. Everything felt damp. My clothes never fully dried. The AC in my condo ran constantly. But I was settling in. That's the thing about routines. They make anywhere feel like home eventually. My mornings stayed consistent. Up at 6:30, Bo's Coffee by 7. I'd gotten to know the baristas. They stopped asking what I wanted, just made my Americano when they saw me walk in. I'd read on my Kindle for an hour, Watch the morning rush. Office workers in their barong Tagalogs, the traditional Filipino dress shirts. Jeepneys packed with commuters hanging off the back. The street vendors setting up their carts selling balut and fish balls. The expat scene in Cebu is interesting. You've got different types. There are the young digital nomads working remotely, living in fancy condos in IT Park, treating the Philippines like an extended vacation. There are the older retirement guys, mostly Americans and Australians, who've been here 10 or 20 years, married to Filipinas, integrated into local life. And then there are guys like Brad. Brad lived 2 floors down from me, early 50s, from somewhere in the Midwest, worked in insurance before he retired. He had this Filipina girlfriend, maybe 23, who came and went at odd hours. I'd see them sometimes in the lobby. He'd be holding shopping bags from the mall. She'd be on her phone. Never looked happy together, you know? Just transactional. I ran into Brad one afternoon at the building's pool. He was drunk on San Miguel, going on about how all Filipinas are gold diggers, how you just have to accept it's a business arrangement, how if you're smart about it, you can live like a king here for cheap. I didn't like Brad. He represented everything I didn't want to become. Cynical. Exploitative. The kind of expat who refers to the Philippines as a sex tourism destination and thinks that's just telling it like it is. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The teaching gigs became the highlight of my weeks. Twice a month, Saturday mornings, I'd take a grab to this culinary school in Lahug. Small operation, maybe 20 students per class, but they took it seriously. The owner, a Filipina woman named Mrs. Santos who'd trained in Hong Kong, wanted her students to learn Western techniques properly. I taught knife skills, mostly. How to hold a chef's knife, the different cuts, French brunoise and julienne. How to break down a chicken efficiently. Basic stuff for me, but new for students who'd grown up with Filipino cooking methods. They were eager, took notes, asked questions. It felt good to pass on what I knew. The students called me Chef Clyde. Not sir, not kuya, just chef. I appreciated that. Professional. Respectful without being weird about the age difference. Most of the students were young women in hospitality management programs. The Philippines has this huge hospitality industry. Hotels, resorts, cruise ships. A lot of these students were aiming to work abroad eventually. OFW culture. Overseas Filipino workers. It's a massive part of the economy here. Millions of Filipinos work in other countries, send money back to support their families. You see it everywhere. Families living off remittances from a daughter in Dubai or a son on a cargo ship. I understood that context. It's structural poverty, not personal failure. These students weren't just learning to cook for fun. They were learning marketable skills to lift their families out of poverty. That's why they were so serious about it. Around month 6, April, the dry season came back. The heat intensified, but at least the rain stopped. The workshops continued. I was feeling good. Not happy exactly, but functional, stable. I'd wake up without that crushing weight of Sarah's absence. The grief was still there, but it had settled into something I could carry. I started exploring more. Took weekend trips to nearby islands, Malapascua for diving, Bantayan for beaches. The Philippines is beautiful, I'll give it that. 7,000 islands, each one different. The water is impossibly blue. The sunsets are spectacular. I'd sit on a beach with a San Miguel, watch the sun go down, and think maybe I'd made the right choice coming here. The loneliness was manageable. I joined a hiking group that did trips around Cebu on Sundays, mostly younger expats and some Filipinos. We'd hike up to Temple of Lea or out to some waterfalls in the mountains. It wasn't deep friendship, but it was human connection. People to talk to, that was enough. My expenses stayed low. The condo was 25,000 pesos. Food, maybe another 15,000 if I was eating out a lot. less if I cooked, utilities, internet, another 5,000, call it 50,000 pesos a month total, about $900. My pension was 2,400. I was actually saving money. My 105,000 in the bank was growing, not shrinking. I thought I had it figured out. I thought I'd found a sustainable life here. Comfortable retirement in the tropics, teaching on the side, exploring when I felt like it, processing my grief at my own pace, no drama, no complications. The teaching gave me something I didn't realize I'd been missing. Purpose. Identity. I wasn't just a widower running away from his old life. I was Chef Clyde again. I was mentoring the next generation. I was useful. That's the dangerous part, looking back now. I needed to feel useful. I needed to matter to someone. In Portland, I'd mattered to Sarah, to my fellow cooks, to the restaurants I worked in. Here, I was just another foreigner. Anonymous, replaceable. But in that culinary school, for 2 Saturday mornings a month, I mattered. The students needed what I knew. They valued my experience. That need made me vulnerable. I just didn't know it yet. The other thing that was happening, slowly, was that I was letting my guard down. The first few months in Cebu, I'd been cautious, skeptical. I'd heard the stories about scams, about bar girls, about foreigners getting taken advantage of. But 6 months in, nothing bad had happened to me. Everyone had been friendly, helpful, genuine as far as I could tell. I started thinking maybe those stories were exaggerated. Maybe they happened to guys like Brad who were looking for transactional relationships with young women. Maybe if you approached the Philippines with respect, with cultural sensitivity, with good intentions, you'd be fine. That's what I told myself. My progressive values would protect me. My ability to see people as individuals rather than stereotypes would keep me safe. I wasn't like those other expats. I was different. Pride. That's what it was. I was proud of being the good expat, the respectful one, the one who treated Filipinos as equals, and that pride made me think I was immune to the things that happened to lesser men. By the end of my 6th month, I felt like I'd built something real in Cebu. A routine, a purpose, a life that worked. The grief over Sarah was still there, but it wasn't drowning me anymore. I could breathe. I could function. I could even imagine a future here. Everything was going exactly according to plan. Stable, manageable, safe. And that's when Jasmine walked into my workshop. She showed up in my April knife skills workshop. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. The heat already building outside even though it was early. 20 students filed in, most of them regulars I'd seen before. A few new faces. Jasmine was one of the new ones. I noticed her because she was different from the start. Most students came in chatting, taking selfies with their friends, treating it like a fun weekend activity. Jasmine came in alone, sat in the front row, pulled out a proper notebook and 3 different colored pens. While I was setting up the demo station, she was already reading the handout, Mrs. the Running the Fund. Santos had prepared, making notes in the margins. She was 24, I learned later. Petite, maybe 5'2". Long, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. No makeup that I could see. She wore a simple white blouse and jeans, nothing flashy. She looked like a serious student, which is exactly what she was going for. I started the workshop the way I always did. Introduction to Knife Anatomy. The different parts of a chef's knife. How to hold it properly, pinch grip on the blade, not strangling the handle like you're going to stab someone. The rocking motion. Safety first, always. The students practiced on scrap vegetables, carrots mostly, some potatoes. I walked around correcting grips, adjusting hand positions, making sure nobody was about to lose a finger. When I got to Jasmine, she was doing it almost perfectly. Her grip was textbook. Her cuts were uneven, sure, but her form was right. That's rare for a first-timer. "You've done this before," I said. She looked up, smiled. "A little, chef. My Lola, my grandmother, she taught me some things. But I want to learn the proper French technique for when I work in hotels." Her English was excellent. Slight Visayan accent, the way Cebuanos speak, but clear and confident. That impressed me. A lot of students here speak great English, colonial legacy and all that, but there's still variation in comfort level. "What program are you in?" I asked. "Hospitality Management, chef, University of San Carlos, 3rd year. I want to work in hotel kitchens eventually, maybe abroad, be an OFW like my cousins." There it was. The OFW dream. Work abroad, send money home, lift the family up. I'd heard it from dozens of students by then. It was the Philippines in a nutshell. The brain drain, the economic necessity, the sacrifice of one generation for the next. "That's a good goal," I said. "Keep practicing. Your form is good." She beamed at that, went back to her carrots with renewed focus. During the break, while other students were outside smoking or checking their phones, Jasmine stayed behind. She approached the demo station where I was cleaning up. "Chef Clyde, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What's the difference between French and German knife technique? I've read about it online, but I'm not sure I understand." Now, this is the kind of question that makes a teacher happy. It's specific. It shows she'd done research. It shows genuine curiosity beyond just getting through the class. I spent 10 minutes explaining the differences. French technique uses more wrist. German uses more forearm. Different blade angles. Different cutting motions. I showed her on a carrot, let her try both ways. She got it immediately, adjusted her grip, changed her motion, nodded when she felt the difference. "Thank you, chef. That makes sense now." The other students were filtering back in. She went back to her seat. I continued the workshop. At the end of class, while students were cleaning their stations, Jasmine approached again. This time with what seemed like a spontaneous question but was definitely planned. "Chef, have you ever worked with Filipino ingredients, like local vegetables and seafood?" "Some," I said. "I've been to Carbon Market a few times, but honestly I don't know most of them by name. I can cook with what I recognize." "Would you like to learn?" she asked. "I could show you the market sometime, introduce you to the vendors my family knows, show you things you might not find on your own." I hesitated. This felt like crossing a line from teacher to something else, but it also felt innocent. Educational. She wasn't suggesting dinner or anything that could be misconstrued, just a market tour. A cultural exchange. "That would be great," I said, "if you have time. Next Saturday, before your workshop, we could meet early, 7 o'clock, before the market gets too crowded." We exchanged numbers. She left. I thought nothing of it. Looking back, that was the hook being set. The offer of help, the cultural education, the positioning of herself as the knowledgeable local showing the naive foreigner around. It was perfect. Unthreatening. Generous, even. The following Saturday, we met at Carbon Market at 7 in the morning. If you've never been to a Filipino wet market, it's an assault on the senses. The smell of fish and meat and tropical fruit all mixed together. The sound of vendors shouting, chickens squawking, the thwack of cleavers on cutting boards. The visual chaos of produce piled high, seafood on ice, hanging meat, everything crammed together in narrow aisles. Jasmine navigated it like she'd been doing it her whole life, which she had. She showed me 3 different varieties of lemongrass, fresh turmeric root, nothing like the dried powder, pandan leaves for flavoring rice, calamansi, the tiny Filipino citrus that's better than lime. She introduced me to her family's regular vendors, older women who smiled and gave me extra samples because I was with Jasmine. She wouldn't let me pay for anything. When I tried to give her money for the produce she'd bought, she refused. "No, chef. This is my gift. You teach me for free in the workshop. This is my way of saying thank you." That impressed me. She had pride. She wasn't looking for handouts. She was reciprocating generosity with generosity. In my mind, that made her different from what I'd heard about Filipinas approaching foreigners for money. We got coffee after, at a local place near the market. Cheap coffee, instant Nescafe with condensed milk, but she seemed to genuinely enjoy it. She talked about her family. Her father used to drive a jeepney in Dumaguete, the city where she was from, but health problems had forced him to stop working. Her mother sold produce in their local market. She had a younger brother in college studying engineering, a younger sister in high school. She was the eldest daughter. The eight, the one who carried the family's hopes. "It's a lot of pressure," she said simply, "but that's just how it is here. Family is everything." I understood that, or I thought I did. I saw it through my progressive lens. Structural poverty creating intense family obligations. The oldest child sacrificing for the younger ones. It resonated with my worldview. I didn't see it as a warning sign. I saw it as cultural context. She asked about my life in Portland, about my career. When I mentioned Sarah's death, she didn't give me the awkward American platitudes I'd gotten used to. No, she's in a better place, or everything happens for a reason. She just said, "In the Philippines, we believe the people we love never really leave us. They stay in our hearts, in our memories. That's a kind of living, too." It was simple, genuine. It made me tear up a little, which embarrassed me. "Sorry," I said. Still fresh sometimes. "Don't be sorry, Chef. Love doesn't have an expiration date." We talked for 2 hours. She asked about French technique, about working in restaurants, about what it was like to live in America. She was curious, intelligent, asked follow-up questions. It felt like talking to a bright student who was genuinely interested in the world beyond her own experience. When we parted, she said, "Thank you for the coffee, Chef. And for sharing about your wife. I know that's not easy. Thank you for the market tour. I learned a lot. Maybe we can do it again sometime. I can show you where to find the best mangoes." I'd like that. It became a pattern. After my Saturday workshops, we'd get coffee. She'd ask about cooking, about my life, about Portland. I'd ask about her studies, her family, her plans for the future. It felt paternal. Safe. Like mentoring a bright student who reminded me of the daughter Sarah and I never had. She started calling me Kuya Clyde. Kuya means older brother in Tagalog. It's a term of respect and affection. It felt appropriate, familial without being weird about the age gap. Sometimes when she laughed at something I said, she'd rest her hand on my forearm. Just for a moment. A natural gesture of warmth. I told myself it was just Filipino culture. They're more physically affectionate here than Americans are. It didn't mean anything. She'd text me occasionally during the week, photos of interesting ingredients she'd found at the market, questions about technique. Once, a sunset photo from the boulevard in Dumaguete with the caption, "Missing home today." I'd respond, offer encouragement, answer her questions. It felt good to be needed, to have someone value my knowledge and experience. By the end of May, I was looking forward to Saturdays because it meant seeing Jasmine. Not in a romantic way, I told myself. In a mentorship way. She was smart, ambitious, respectful. She represented what I'd hoped to find in the Philippines. Genuine human connection based on mutual respect and shared interests. I should have seen it. The pattern. The careful cultivation of trust. The positioning of herself as someone who needed guidance but also had something to offer. The gradual increase in contact. The physical touches that stayed innocent but created familiarity. But I didn't see it. I was too busy feeling useful again. Too busy feeling like I mattered to someone. too busy congratulating myself on being the good expat who built genuine relationships instead of transactional ones. Pride, loneliness, need. The perfect combination to make a smart man stupid. The setup was complete, I just didn't know it yet. It happened in June, my 8th month in Cebu. The afternoon rains had come back with a vengeance, and I was sitting in Bo's coffee watching the downpour when Jasmine texted, "Can we meet for coffee after your workshop on Saturday? I need to talk to you about something." That should have been a warning sign. The phrasing, the vagueness. But I just thought maybe she was having trouble with her studies or needed career advice. Saturday came, the workshop went fine. Jasmine was there, but she seemed distracted. Her knife work was sloppy, which wasn't like her. She kept looking at her phone. During the break, she barely spoke to me, just gave me a quick smile and went outside. After class, we walked to our usual coffee spot. She was quiet. I asked her what was wrong. She started crying, not loud, dramatic crying, just quiet tears running down her face while she stared at her hands. "My father," she said, "his kidneys. They're failing." I felt my stomach drop. This was real. Medical crisis. The kind of thing that destroys families here. She explained through tears. Her father had been having health problems for years. That's why he'd stopped driving his jeepney. Now his kidneys were shutting down. He needed dialysis 3 times a week. Each session cost 2,500 pesos, about $45. PhilHealth, the government health insurance, covered some of it, but not enough. The family was drowning. She showed me photos on her phone. Her father in a hospital bed, looking gaunt, gray, old. The dialysis machine next to him with its tubes and monitors. Her mother standing beside the bed, looking exhausted. "I might have to drop out," she said. "Next semester. I need to work full-time, help my family. My brother and sister, they're too young. It has to be me." This is where I should have been skeptical, where I should have asked questions, where I should have remembered that I barely knew this woman, that our relationship was 2 months old, that helping her financially would cross a line I'd promised myself I wouldn't cross. But I didn't do any of that. Instead, I thought about structural poverty, about how dialysis in America is covered by Medicare. But here it's a family-destroying expense. About the 8 culture, the eldest daughter sacrificing her future for her family. About a bright student whose dreams were being crushed by circumstances beyond her control. And I thought about Sarah, about how she'd always wanted to teach, to help students reach their potential, about how she'd have wanted me to help if I could. "How much is tuition?" I asked, "for 1 semester?" She looked up, surprised. "Chef, no, I can't ask you for money. That's not why I told you. I know. But I'm asking, how much?" She hesitated. 45,000 pesos, about $800. "But chef, that's too much. I can't accept that." $800. I'd spent more than that on a good knife set back in Portland. I had 105,000 sitting in the bank. My monthly expenses were 900. I could afford this. "Listen," I said. "Consider it an investment. In your education, in your future. You're a good student, Jasmine. You're going to go far. Someday, when you're working in a hotel in Dubai or Singapore, when you're making good money, you pay it forward. Help another student who's struggling. Deal?" She cried harder. "I can't, chef. It's too much." "You can. And you will. Because you're going to finish your degree and make something of yourself. That's how you honor what I'm giving you. Not by paying me back, but by succeeding." She hugged me then. First time we'd had physical contact beyond the occasional hand on the arm. She was small, fragile in my arms. I felt paternal, protective, like I was doing something good. "You're my guardian angel, Kuya Clyde," she whispered. The payment process seemed legitimate. She gave me the university's bank account details. I went to BDO, one of the big banks, did a transfer. She showed me the official receipt a few days later. University of San Carlos letterhead, her name, the amount, the semester. Everything looked proper. Her gratitude was enormous. She brought me bibingka, Filipino rice cakes her mother had made, wrapped in banana leaves, still warm. My mama made these for you, to say thank you. A week later, she video called me. Kuya, my parents want to meet you, to thank you properly. I met her family via messenger video call. Her father, looking frail but smiling, propped up in a chair in what looked like a modest provincial house. Her mother, warm and kind-faced, speaking limited English. Her brother Miguel, maybe 19, serious-looking. Her sister, 15 or 16, shy. They thanked me profusely. Her father spoke in Visayan, Jasmine translated. He says you're a blessing from God. He says he prays for you every night. He says our family will never forget your kindness. Her mother gave me a blessing, hands pressed together, head bowed. Salamat, salamat, thank you, thank you. They invited me to visit Dumaguete. Any time, chef. Our home is your home. I felt welcomed, part of something. This wasn't a transaction. This was genuine Filipino hospitality, genuine gratitude. I was helping good people in a bad situation. Looking back, I can see the manipulation. The photos could have been of anyone. The video call could have been rehearsed. The receipt could have been forged. But in the moment, it all felt real. Because I wanted it to be real. I needed it to be real. A month passed. July. The rainy season was in full force. Jasmine seemed lighter, happier. She talked about her classes for next semester, her plans, her dreams. She brought me lunch sometimes, Filipino food her mother had made. Adobo, sinigang, lumpia. Mama wants to make sure you're eating well, Kuya. The relationship shifted. She started texting more often. Not just about cooking or school. Good morning messages. How's your day, Kuya? Photos of sunsets. Funny memes. The kind of casual daily contact you have with someone close. She'd hold my hand sometimes when we walked, rest her head on my shoulder when we sat on benches watching the traffic go by, call me Lolo instead of Kuya sometimes. Grandfather instead of older brother. I told myself it was Filipino culture. Physical affection doesn't mean the same thing here as it does in America. She was young enough to be my granddaughter. This was familial, not romantic. But part of me wondered. Part of me started imagining. Could this be something more? Age gap relationships were common here. I'd seen it everywhere. Was I being foolish? Or was this actually possible? I didn't act on those thoughts, but I didn't shut them down either. I let them exist in the background, a possibility I didn't examine too closely. Then came the laptop crisis. Late July, right before finals. Jasmine called me, panicked. Kuya, I don't know what to do. My laptop, it died. The screen is cracked. I have all my papers on it, all my notes. Finals are in 2 weeks. She showed me via video call. The laptop with a spiderweb crack across the screen. It looked bad. Can you get it repaired? I asked. I tried. They said it's not worth repairing. The screen replacement costs almost as much as a new laptop. They quoted me 35,000 pesos, $600. I didn't even hesitate. Get a new one. I'll cover it. Kuya, no. You already paid my tuition. I can't ask for more. You're not asking. I'm offering. You need a laptop for school. Consider it part of the education investment. She cried again. Said she'd pay me back. I said not to worry about it. She could pay me back slowly if she wanted, but there was no pressure. The pattern was established. I was the provider, the solver of problems, the guardian angel. And with each transaction, I felt more needed, more useful, more like I mattered. August brought another request. Her brother Miguel needed books for his engineering program. 12,000 pesos, about $210. She showed me the book list, the prices at the university bookstore. It seemed legitimate. I sent the money via GCash this time. Jasmine had set up a GCash account, the Filipino mobile money system. It was easier than bank transfers. Instant. She'd send me a screenshot of the confirmation, a thank you message, sometimes a photo of Miguel with his new textbooks. I started keeping a mental tally. 45,000 for tuition, 35,000 for the laptop, 12,000 for books, 92,000 pesos total, about $1,650, over 3 months. It wasn't devastating. My 105,000 in savings was now around 95,000 after the visa deposit and 3 months of helping Jasmine. I was still comfortable. My pension covered my living expenses. I could afford to help, and Jasmine never acted entitled. She always seemed embarrassed to need help. She always promised to pay it forward, to succeed, to make me proud. The gratitude felt genuine. The physical affection increased. She'd lean her head on my shoulder during our coffee talks, hold my hand while we walked through the mall. Once, when we were watching the sunset from a bench near the waterfront, she kissed my cheek. "Thank you for everything, Lolo." Lolo, grandfather. But the way she said it, the way she looked at me, it didn't feel purely familial. I was 63 years old. She was 24, 39 years between us. She could have been my granddaughter. But she was also a beautiful, intelligent young woman who seemed to genuinely care about me, who listened when I talked about Sarah, who valued my knowledge, who made me feel less alone. I started wondering what Sarah would think. Would she want me to be happy, to find companionship, or would she be horrified by the age gap, the cultural difference, the power imbalance? I didn't know. And she wasn't here to ask. What I did know was that, for the first time since Sarah's death, I felt like I had a reason to wake up in the morning. Someone who cared if I was okay. Someone who texted me goodnight. Someone who made me feel like I mattered. That was worth $1,600, wasn't it? Looking back, I can see how perfectly it was calibrated. Each request small enough to justify. Each gratitude display genuine enough to believe. Each escalation gradual enough not to trigger alarm. I was being played, but I didn't know it yet. I was too busy feeling useful, feeling needed, feeling like maybe I'd found something real in this chaotic, beautiful, complicated country. The hook was set deep, and I was about to be reeled in. September came, and the dynamic shifted in ways I didn't fully understand but couldn't ignore. Jasmine started texting me every morning. "Good morning, Kuya. Hope you slept well." Photos of her breakfast. Memes she found funny. Questions about my day that had nothing to do with cooking or school. The kind of constant contact you have with someone close. She started dressing differently around me. Not provocative, nothing like that, but more put together. A little perfume, her hair down instead of in a ponytail. Earrings. Small things that made her look less like a student and more like a woman. The physical affection increased too. She'd lean into me when we sat together, rest her head on my shoulder while we watched the jeepneys go by, hold my hand when we walked through Ayala Mall. Once, she linked her arm through mine and I felt every eye on us. Old white guy, young Filipina. I knew what people were thinking. I told myself it was cultural. Filipinos are affectionate. The age gap means nothing here. This is just how young women show respect and gratitude to older men who help them. Familial. Nothing inappropriate. But then one afternoon in late September, we were having coffee at our usual spot, and she said something that shattered that rationalization. "You know, Kuya, age is just a number." I looked up from my coffee. "What?" "My Lola, my grandmother, she was 20 years younger than my Lolo." They met when she was 23 and he was 43. Everyone said it wouldn't work, but they were married for 40 years. Happy the whole time. She let that sit there between us. I didn't know what to say. Was she suggesting what I thought she was suggesting? Or was I reading into it because part of me wanted her to be suggesting it? That's a big age difference, I said carefully. Love doesn't count years, Kuya. It counts hearts. She smiled at me. Not the student smile. Something else. Something that made my chest tight. I changed the subject. Asked about her classes. She let it go. But the seed was planted. I started noticing things. The way she looked at me sometimes. The way she'd touch my arm when she laughed. The way she called me Lolo instead of Kuya more often, but in a tone that felt affectionate rather than familial. I was 63, she was 24. 39 years between us. She could have been my granddaughter. But age gap relationships were everywhere in the Philippines. I saw them constantly. Older Western men with young Filipinas. Some were clearly transactional, but others seemed genuine. Happy. Could this be real? Could she actually be interested in me as more than a mentor? Or was I fooling myself, seeing what I wanted to see because I was lonely and she was beautiful and attentive? I didn't act on it, but I didn't shut it down either. I let the ambiguity exist. Let myself imagine scenarios. What would it be like to have a partner again? Someone to share meals with, to talk to not be alone. The financial requests continued, always with emergencies, always documented. Early September, her sister's high school graduation. She needed 15,000 pesos for cap and gown, graduation fees, a small party for family. About $270. She showed me photos of the graduation requirements, the price list from the school. I sent the money via GCash. She sent me photos of her sister in the cap and gown, smiling, proud. Thank you, Kuya. You made this possible. Late September, her mother got dengue fever, hospitalized for 4 days. The bill was 20,000 pesos, about $360. PhilHealth covered some, but not enough. The family couldn't afford the balance. Jasmine called me crying. Kuya, I don't know what to do. They won't release my mama from the hospital until we pay. My father is too sick to work. Miguel doesn't have money. It has to be me. I transferred the money before she finished explaining. Her relief was palpable. I'll pay you back, Kuya, I promise. When I'm working, when I have money, I'll pay every peso back. Don't worry about it, I said. Just take care of your mother. The mental tally was growing. Tuition, 45,000, laptop, 35,000, books, 12,000. Sister's graduation, 15,000. Mother's hospital, 20,000. Total, 127,000 pesos, about $2,280. That's when I started keeping a spreadsheet. Not because I wanted the money back, but because part of me needed to see it written down, to quantify what was happening. My savings had gone from 105,000 to around 93,000 after the SRRV deposit and all the help I'd given Jasmine. Still comfortable. Not devastating. But the trajectory concerned me. I told myself it was about helping good people in difficult circumstances, structural poverty, family obligations, cultural differences. All the things my progressive values had taught me to understand and support. But something else was happening too. The more I gave, the more invested I became, not just financially, emotionally. Each transaction deepened the relationship, made me feel more connected, more responsible, more needed. That's when Brad showed up at my door. It was a Saturday evening, early October. I was cooking dinner when I heard the knock. Brad stood there, drunk, holding the Red Horse beer. Hey, neighbor, got a minute? I didn't want to let him in, but I did. He flopped onto my couch, took a long drink. I need to tell you something, he said, man to man. Here it comes, I thought. Some lecture about Filipinas, some cynical expat wisdom. That girl you're seeing. The student, Jasmine. I froze. I'm not seeing her, I'm her teacher. She's a student I'm helping with school expenses. Brad laughed. Not kindly. Right, school expenses, let me guess. Tuition, laptop, family medical emergency, books, graduation fees. I didn't say anything. Bro, it's a scam. Classic one, student girlfriend who needs money for school. I fell for the same thing last year. Different girl, same script. Sick parent, can't afford tuition. Emergency after emergency. They're pros at this. Jasmine is different, I said. She's a real student. University of San Carlos. I've seen the receipts. Receipts can be faked. Have you actually verified she's enrolled, called the university, gone to a class with her? I hadn't. Look, Brad said, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm trying to help. I lost $8,000 before I figured it out. How much have you given her? That's none of your business. More than $2,000. 3, my silence answered. Here's what you do, Brad said. Test her. Set up a fake Facebook account. Message her pretending to be a new foreigner. See what happens. That's insane. So is giving money to someone you barely know. But hey, it's your money, your life. I'm just telling you what I wish someone had told me. He left. I stood in my kitchen, dinner forgotten, his words echoing. It was ridiculous. Jasmine wasn't like that. I knew her. We had a real relationship. She was genuine. The receipts were real. The video call with her family was real, wasn't it? But Brad's words wouldn't leave my mind. They burrowed in, created doubt where there had been certainty. That week, Jasmine canceled coffee twice. Texted both times saying she had to meet with potential internship supervisors at hotels. When I offered to help her network, use my culinary contacts to set up meetings, she demurred. Said she had it handled. Didn't want to bother me. That should have been fine. She was capable. Ambitious. Of course, she was pursuing opportunities on her own. But combined with Brad's warning, it felt suspicious. Why wouldn't she want my help networking? Why was she vague about which hotels, which supervisors? I started noticing other things. She'd sometimes check her phone during our conversations, smile at messages, never explain who they were from. She'd be unavailable certain evenings, said she was studying, but once I heard karaoke and voices in the background when she called, small things, probably nothing. But doubt is like mold. Once it starts growing, it spreads. I had two choices. Trust her. Believe this was real. Continue helping and accept the ambiguity. Or test her. I thought about it for 3 days. The idea felt dirty. Dishonest. If I trusted her, I shouldn't need to test her. And if I didn't trust her, what kind of relationship did we have anyway? But I couldn't let it go. Brad's words kept circling. They're pros at this. So I did it. I created the fake Facebook profile. David Richardson, 58 years old. British, recently arrived in Cebu from Manchester, retired electrician, looking to settle down, maybe teach some workshops, enjoy the warm weather after a lifetime of rain. I used stock photos from a free image site, created a whole backstory, joined a few Cebu expat groups, made it look legitimate. Then I messaged the culinary school through Facebook, said I was a new arrival interested in Chef Clyde's workshops, asked about private lessons, since I wanted to learn Filipino cooking to impress my future Filipina wife. Within 4 hours, Jasmine responded. Not from the school's account, from her personal account. Hello, sir. I'm Jasmine, a senior student at the school. I sometimes help connect foreign students with instructors. Would you like to meet for coffee to discuss your goals? I can help you get started. My stomach dropped. I had a British expat friend, Ian, who owed me a favor. I paid him $50 to play David. We rehearsed the backstory. He'd meet Jasmine, ask questions, see what happened. I watched from across Beau's coffee, hidden behind my laptop and sunglasses, as Ian arrived and Jasmine greeted him with that same shy smile she'd given me months ago. I watched her lean forward, interested, as he talked about his life in Manchester, his loneliness after his wife died, his pension that went much further here than in the UK. I watched her touch his arm exactly the way she touched mine when she left, and I watched, my world collapsing, as she told him about her father's dialysis, her struggling family, her dream of finishing her hospitality degree, but the financial burden making it impossible. The exact same story, word for word. Ian offered to help with tuition. She refused at first. Too much she couldn't accept. He insisted. She accepted graciously, tears in her eyes. I left before I threw up. The second meeting, 2 days later, I watched again. She showed Ian photos of her father in the hospital. The same photos. She mentioned possibly having to drop out next semester. Ian offered 50,000 pesos for tuition. She cried and hugged him and called him her guardian angel. The exact same script she'd run on me. I confronted her the next day at our usual coffee spot. She showed up smiling, happy to see me. Reached for my hand. I pulled away. "We need to talk about David Richardson," I said. Her face went blank. I showed her the screenshots, the conversations, the photos Ian had taken. Everything. She didn't deny it. That's what hurt most. She just sat there, tears running down her face, and didn't even try to lie. "You don't understand how it is here, Kuya. Explain it to me then. My family needs to eat. You have so much. We have nothing. This is just discard, resourcefulness, survival. Everyone does it. Everyone scams foreigners. I didn't scam you. I gave you companionship, attention. You weren't so lonely anymore, were you? That has value. You got something from this too. I thought it was real. It was real. The time we spent together was real. I like you, Kuya. I still do. But liking someone and needing to survive aren't mutually exclusive. The receipts, your father, the video call with your family?" She looked away. The receipts were edited. My father is fine. The video call was friends helping me. We all help each other survive. It's not personal. It's just how things work here. How much? How many other guys? That doesn't matter now. It matters to me. She stood up. "I'm sorry you feel betrayed, but you came here looking to matter to someone, to be needed. I gave you that. We used each other, Kuya. You just didn't want to see it." She left. I sat there, numb, as the afternoon rain started pounding the windows. That night, I did the research I should have done months ago. Called the University of San Carlos. Jasmine hadn't been enrolled that semester. Reverse image search on the hospital photo of her father. Stock image from a medical website. Facebook detective work through Filipino friends who helped me. Found her real profile, the one she didn't show foreigners. Photos at beach resorts. Designer bags, clubs, her sick father healthy and smiling at a family party last month. The friends from the video call, tagged in group photos. All of them young, dressed well, living lives that didn't match the poverty story. The final tally, 165,000 pesos across 6 months, $2,960. Not enough to bankrupt me, but enough to prove I was a fool. I didn't go to the police. What was I going to report? That I voluntarily gave money to someone who lied about her circumstances? In the Philippines, that's not a crime they'd pursue for $3,000. No fraud charges, no theft. Just a fool and his money parting ways. Jasmine sent me a few messages after the confrontation. The first one was apologetic. "I'm sorry I hurt you, Kuya. I never wanted that. You're a good man." The second was defensive. "You act like one stole from you. You gave freely. You felt good helping. Don't blame me because reality disappoints you. The third was angry. You're just like all the other foreigners. You think we're all scammers. You used my company, my time, my attention. I gave you months of companionship. You think that has no value? You weren't paying for school expenses, Kuya. You were paying to not be lonely. We both know it. That last one cut deepest because part of it was true. I blocked her number, blocked her on Facebook, deleted our message history, tried to erase her from my life as cleanly as she'd extracted money from my bank account. The aftermath wasn't really about the money. My savings went from 105,000 to around 102,000. Still comfortable. My pension still covered my expenses. I could retire here for years on what I had left. It was the loneliness that came back. Sharper this time. Meaner. Before Jasmine, I'd been alone but managing. Building routines. Finding purpose through teaching. The loneliness was like background noise I'd learned to tune out. After Jasmine, it was deafening. I stopped teaching at the culinary school. Couldn't face Mrs. Santos. Couldn't walk into that classroom where I'd first seen Jasmine taking notes in the front row. The place felt tainted. The trust I'd been building in the Philippines crumbled. Every interaction became suspect. The barista at Bo's Coffee, who knew my order and smiled when I walked in, was she sizing me up? The security guard at my building, who was extra friendly, was he setting up an ask? The woman at the market who gave me extra mangoes, what did she want? The paranoia poisoned everything. I started spending more time in expat Facebook groups, found a thread about scams. Dozens of stories just like mine. Hundreds of them, actually. The student who needs tuition. The sick parent who needs medical treatment. The broken laptop right before finals. The siblings' school fees. The family emergency. Templates. Scripts. Professional operations. Some guys laughed when I posted my story. Bro, everyone knows about the student scam. How'd you fall for that? Did you not do any research before coming here? Others were more sympathetic, admitted their own experiences. One Australian guy lost $15,000 over 18 months to almost the identical setup. Different girl, same story, same progression. He'd even met the family in person, visited their house in the province, all of it staged. A Canadian told me about sending $50,000 over 2 years to a Filipina he'd met online, building a house on her family's land, only to discover she had a Filipino husband and 2 kids the whole time. The house he built? They're living in it now. He got nothing. I realized I'd actually gotten off light. But that didn't make it hurt less. The hardest part wasn't accepting that Jasmine had scammed me. The hardest part was accepting that I'd scammed myself. I'd wanted so badly to believe in the story. The bright student struggling against poverty, the genuine connection, the possibility of mattering to someone again, that I'd ignored every warning sign. Brad's warning. The canceled coffee dates. The vague schedule. The escalating requests. The calculated ambiguity between familial and romantic affection. All of it. I'd prided myself on being perceptive, on reading people. 40 years in restaurant kitchens where you have to spot the lazy cook, the thief, the liar. I thought that skill translated. It didn't. Or maybe it did, and I'd just chosen to ignore what I was seeing because loneliness makes you blind. The cultural reckoning was harder still. I'd come to the Philippines with progressive values. Structural poverty, not personal failure. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Understand cultural differences. Don't be the ugly American who looks down on locals. All of that was real. Families here do struggle with medical costs. Dialysis is expensive and can destroy a family financially. Students do drop out because they can't afford tuition. Extended family support is a genuine cultural expectation, not always manipulation. The scam worked because it was built on truth. That's what made me angry. Not at Jasmine specifically, though, yeah, I was angry at her too, but at the impossible position of trying to help without being exploited, of trying to do good while being seen as a walking ATM. My progressive values hadn't protected me. They'd made me vulnerable, made me an easy mark. The perfect combination of guilt about Western privilege and need to feel useful. 4 months passed. Present day now. I'm still in Cebu. My visa is good for years. My money will last. The weather is still warm. The cost of living is still low. On paper, everything that drew me here still exists. But I'm different. I keep to myself mostly. Cook at home, read a lot, take walks alone. I haven't taught any workshops, haven't pursued friendships with locals beyond transactional interactions, haven't dated, haven't even thought about it. The warmth I came here seeking feels permanently beyond reach, not because it doesn't exist, but because I can't trust it anymore. Can't trust my own judgment about when it's real and when it's performance. Brad sees me sometimes at the building pool. Nods. Doesn't say I told you so, which I appreciate. His girlfriend is still around, still on her phone, still looking unhappy. At least he knows what he has. At least he's honest about the transaction. Maybe that's smarter. Maybe the cynics had it right all along. My retirement dream died with the Jasmine situation. Not the financial dream I can still afford to live here comfortably. The other dream, community. Connection. Belonging somewhere. Mattering to someone. I came here running from grief and loneliness. I'm still here, still running, but now I'm carrying more of both. Here's what I learned. If you're thinking about doing what I did, I thought my values made me enlightened. Turns out they just made me an easy mark. The lesson isn't that all Filipinos are scammers. They're not. Most people here are genuinely kind, genuinely struggling, genuinely trying to survive in a system stacked against them. The lesson is that poverty creates desperate people, and desperate people develop survival skills. Discard isn't always admirable hustle. Sometimes it's calculated manipulation. And you can't tell the difference from the outside, especially when you're lonely and want to believe. The other lesson, loneliness makes you blind. I wanted to believe I was special, that this relationship was different, that she genuinely valued me for more than my bank account. That want made me ignore obvious red flags, made me rationalize warning signs, made me invest emotionally and financially until I was too deep to back out without admitting I'd been a fool. If you're coming here alone, lonely, looking to matter to someone you're vulnerable, know that about yourself first. Know that vulnerability will be spotted, will be exploited, will cost you, maybe not money, maybe just dignity, maybe just the ability to trust. I don't regret coming to the Philippines. I regret thinking I was different, smarter, protected by my values and my experience. I wasn't, and neither are you. Clyde's story is a reminder that scams work because they're built on real elements, genuine poverty, cultural family obligations, and the very real struggles Filipinos face with healthcare and education costs. The exploitation isn't that these problems don't exist. It's that they're weaponized against lonely foreigners whose guilt and desire to help override their skepticism. Jasmine's line cuts to the truth. You weren't so lonely anymore, were you? These relationships are transactional on both sides, but only one party is honest about it. Clyde came to the Philippines looking to matter to someone again, to be useful, to be needed. And Jasmine gave him exactly that. The companionship was real, in its way. The attention was real. The time they spent together happened. But the foundation was built on carefully constructed lies designed to extract money from a vulnerable man who desperately wanted to believe he'd found genuine human connection. The progressive values Clyde was so proud of, his belief in structural poverty, his desire to help, his open-mindedness about cultural differences, weren't wrong. Those values are admirable. But they became a vulnerability when combined with loneliness and the need to feel useful again. That's the real lesson here. It's not that you shouldn't help people. It's not that all Filipinos are scammers. The vast majority aren't. It's that you need to know yourself first. Know what you're vulnerable to. Know what you're really buying when you start giving money to someone you barely know. If you're considering retirement or relationships in the Philippines, ask yourself, am I solving a problem, or am I buying companionship while telling myself I'm being charitable? There's no shame in the second answer, but there is danger in lying to yourself about which one it is. The student who needs tuition, the sick parent who needs medical treatment, the broken laptop, the siblings' school fees. These scams work because they're template, they're tested. They've been refined over thousands of transactions to hit exactly the right emotional notes. And they work on good people, smart people, experienced people who think they can spot a con. Clyde spent 40 years managing restaurant kitchens. He knew how to read people. He knew how to spot thieves and liars. And he still got played, not because he was stupid, because he was lonely, because he wanted to believe, because he needed to matter to someone. That's the warning. Not about the Philippines specifically, not about Filipinos generally, but about what loneliness can do to your judgment. About how the need to be useful can make you blind to obvious manipulation. About how your best qualities can become your biggest vulnerabilities when someone knows how to weaponize them. Clyde is still in Cebu. His money will last for years. The retirement he planned is financially viable, but the warmth he came seeking, the connection he hoped to find, feels permanently beyond reach. That's the real cost. Not $3,000. The ability to trust. The willingness to be vulnerable. The hope that genuine human connection is possible. Maybe he'll heal in time. Maybe the paranoia will fade. Maybe he'll learn to trust again, more carefully this time, more aware of his own vulnerabilities. Or maybe he'll become like Brad, cynical, transactional, at least honest about what he's buying. Neither option sounds like the retirement Clyde dreamed about when he sold his Craftsman in Selwood and flew to Manila with $105,000 and hoped for something better. Thanks for watching Inside the Philippines. If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe. If you've got your own cautionary tale, the comment section is waiting. And if you're planning to retire abroad, to the Philippines or anywhere else, go in with your eyes open. Know yourself, know your vulnerabilities, know what you're really looking for. And remember, loneliness makes you blind. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your heart guarded.